In this video, we discuss the foreign language core requirement. And before we get into exactly what courses fulfill the requirement and how do you fulfill the requirement, we're going to start at an even more basic level by talking about, do you need to fulfill the foreign language requirement? Because not all students, based on their degree or program, need to fulfill the foreign language requirement. So we have a handy chart here that will help us figure out whether you need to complete this requirement. We'll start off with the simplest category of student, someone who is planning to pursue a Bachelor of Arts degree and is not pre-health. This is the most common category. So students who come in as undeclared and say, hey, I think I might want to be an English major, a history major, an economics major, political science, something in the communications department. These are all Bachelor of Arts degrees. Note that this also applies to the category of students who have these undeclared with the name of a major in parentheses listed as their current major. This is how, for incoming students, we list your potential interest into in a degree program. You wouldn't be fully declared into a political science major or a history major, but your degree works and your transcript would say undeclared parentheses history. So that would all fall into this category here. So if that is you and you are not pre-health, you do need to fulfill the language requirement. The same goes for Bachelor of Arts degree students who are pre-health. You'll notice if you're coming in and you are undeclared and pre-health, you will generally not take a foreign language course in the fall semester, even though technically if you did declare a Bachelor of Arts degree and completed this degree and remained pre-health, you would be subject to the requirement. There's two reasons for this. The first is because students who come in as undeclared and pre-health commonly later declare a Bachelor of Science degree, like chemistry, biology, physics, integrative neuroscience, and the undeclared status is more of a placeholder for what is going to be a science major later. And second, because there are more pressing pre-health level science and math courses to complete in the fall semester. But if you come into Fordham and you know right away, hey, I know I want to be pre-health in an English major or a philosophy major, then you will need to complete the language requirement at some point in order to graduate with a Bachelor of Arts degree, even though you are pre-health. Now let's look at the third category here, Bachelor of Science students in psychology who are not also pre-health. So if you come in saying that your current major of interest is psychology, you would be fully declared into the psychology major. And as such, you would be subject to the language requirement. The Bachelor of Science in psychology is the only exception in terms of Bachelor of Science degrees that does have to fulfill the language requirement. BS in psychology with no pre-health, yes, you need to fulfill. Now there's one little wrinkle here. If you are coming in as a BS in psychology and you are also pre-health, then that negates the need to fulfill the language requirement. But if you decide to not be pre-health or you decide to switch back and forth, then you would become subject to the language requirement, depending on your pre-health status. This category here is thankfully a lot simpler. All other Bachelor of Science degrees besides psychology without pre-health does not need to fulfill, and even with pre-health does not need to fulfill. The tricky part here is that for BA majors, having a pre-health status does not exempt you from the foreign language requirement, though if you are a Bachelor of Science in psychology, the pre-health status does exempt you from the language requirement. So just study this chart carefully if you are in one of these categories. Now that you've learned how to identify whether you're subject to the foreign language requirement, we can now look at what the possible foreign language levels are and what the core requires. Even if from watching the last segment of this video, you know right now you're not going to be subject to the language requirement. You should still watch the remainder of this video. As students' plans change, and you may have a sudden realization that you no longer want to be a biological sciences major with pre-health and instead want to be an English major and pre-health, and thus you would become subject to the language requirement. So to help us understand this, we have a detailed grid here that's broken down into two categories. The first are the rules that apply to modern languages, and those include Arabic, French, German, Hebrew, Italian, Japanese, Mandarin, Russian, and Spanish. And we can see here the various department codes for each of these languages. In the classical languages, we have Ancient Greek and Latin. And the core requires completion of the language and literature level, the core completion level of your given language. So for example, if you were studying Mandarin Chinese, you would need to complete through the level MAND 2001. If you were studying Latin, you would need to complete through LATN 2001. Of course, because everybody comes into Fordham with a different level of language experience, and many students even opt to start a new language as they come to Fordham, it may take more than one semester for students to complete the language requirement. And to illustrate how this works, we're going to go through the flow of language courses for the modern languages and the classical languages separately. So if you came in wanting to start one of these languages here from scratch, having never studied it before, you would take the Introduction 1 level. So if you had never studied French before and you wanted to study French for the first time, you would take Introduction to French 1. And the course code for that is FREN 1001. You'll note that for all of these 1001 level courses for the modern languages, the course is 5 credits instead of 3. This means that it meets for a bit longer each week for additional language lab and conversation practice. So it's going to be a bit more work than a 3-credit class. Most languages are available to start from the beginning in the fall semester. Next, we'll look at the Introductory 2 level, which is numbered 1002. Now, the important thing to note here is that students who take 1001 do not then move to 1002. Because this 5-credit course is an intensive, it sort of covers 2 semesters worth of language content in one. So if you were to take the 1001 level of any of these modern languages in the fall semester, in the spring you would then move to the Intermediate 1 level. So if you took French 1001 in the fall, you would then take French 1501 in the spring, as long as you successfully completed 1001. 1002 is a little bit less common. This is for students who maybe have a bit of background in the language but are not pure beginners. So you would place into this course. The only way to take this course is by placement. You would not take it after having previously taken a language course in that language at Fordham. Intermediate 1 and Intermediate 2 are common placement points for a lot of students, so it would be Intermediate French 1, Intermediate French 2. These are more advanced grammar and learning how to read, starting to learn how to read literature type classes. These are both 3 credits. The Intro 2 is also 3 credits. And now finally we look at the language and literature level. So for French, this would be called French Language and Literature, also 3 credits, and that's French 2001. This is the level that you would need to complete to finish the core. Some students who do very well in the placement exam will place here directly if there is a placement exam for your language. And if you have AP or IB credit, for example, in French, German, Mandarin Chinese, or Spanish, it would place you into the 2001 level. So you would then take just one course to fulfill the language requirement. As a very brief note, students who want to study Spanish at Fordham and who place appropriately on the Spanish placement test, such that they would normally go into 2001, but who are also heritage speakers of Spanish, who speak it at home with their family, will instead take Advanced Spanish for Spanish Speakers, which is numbered SPAN 2301, and this also fulfills the foreign language requirement. Your DegreeWorks will note if you should take this course instead of 2001. One final note before we look at the classical languages about the campuses at which the modern languages are offered. All of these languages, with the exception of Russian and Japanese, are offered at the Rose Hill campus. And if they are offered at the Rose Hill campus, at Fordham College Rose Hill, need to be taken there. Because Japanese and Russian are only offered at the Lincoln Center campus, you are of course permitted to take it there, even though technically it is in Fordham College at Lincoln Center. You should factor in your time so that you take the Ramban to class about an hour and a half before your class begins. So if you have a Tuesday, Friday 1 to 2:15 class at Lincoln Center, we would recommend taking the 11:30 Ramban, because New York City traffic, if you've never experienced it, can be pretty brutal, even for our highly experienced Ramban drivers. Now let's take a look at the classical languages, and the options are Ancient Greek and Latin. So if you're coming in saying you want to start Ancient Greek, having never studied before, or Latin, you would take the Introduction 1 level, which is numbered 1001. And because there is no spoken component to these two languages, unlike the modern languages, this course is only 3 credits, since there is no required language lab. If you take 1001 in the fall semester, you would then actually take 1002 in the spring semester, which is also 3 credits. This is a difference from the modern languages courses, again, because there is no intensive course at the 1001 level. And it's possible for students to either place directly into 1002 for these 2 languages, or to progress there after having taken the 1001 course in the fall, and that's a difference from the modern languages. The next level after 1002 is the Intermediate 1 level, which is numbered 1501. So we would have LATN 1501. And just note that there is no Intermediate 2 level. And that's again because there is no spoken component for this language, for these 2 languages. And the final level for Ancient Greek and Latin is just like the modern languages, the Language and Literature level, which is numbered 2001. So for Ancient Greek, it would be Greek 2001, also a 3-credit course, and is the core completion level. Again, if you do have AP Latin credit, that would place you into this level, and you would take this course, LATN 2001, in the fall. This concludes part 1 of 2 of our foreign language requirement video. Just click to the next page on the Blackboard course to watch part 2.